Hello, how's it going, people? Make sure audio levels are correct. Alright, so here's where we left off last week. We laid down some pads, knee pads, put some blockout materials on the thing, so it would be easier to sort of visualize how it's going. I think I'm going to actually start off with something a little different today. I know that I need to author his hair shader, and even though I'll probably just purchase some textures I found that are sort of well suited to the shader I'm building for his hair in game, what I will do though is sort of show some workflows for how you can do that in ZBrush. Basically, what I want to try and do is create a mesh, do a FiberMesh on top of it, bake it out, and see if I can get all the maps that I need right out of ZBrush for the shader. Even though, you know, it's not going to bake on the hair the way I would with FiberMesh. It's going to, I'm going to bake it onto a square and see if I can get the square 1K texture out of ZBrush. And then I'll apply it to the hair in the game engine, but not here on stream. What's up, Reginator? How are you? Doing alright? A little tired. Worked pretty late last night. So, be a little fuzzy. Maybe moving a little bit slower than usual today. Hi, Suther, is other, whatever it is. How are you? Welcome to the channel. Just doing isolating a polygroup and then Control-Shift-X to grow that area out. I want to grab all the faces I believe should be the black leather material. Click on the color, drag over to the black. You'll notice it's blue because when I click on the shader and grab that, it's actually combining this brown leather shader with a blue, which I think is a nice rough effect for what I think the leather should be. And keep in mind, I don't need the leather to look how it's going to look in production. It just has to look like a good placeholder for now while I'm trying to visualize, you know, what this shape's going to be in. Okay. Grab that color, fill object MRGB. Sometimes you get those little artifacts like that there, because these two materials share faces, and they're fighting over how to shade those polygons and the bleed over. If I fix one, it's gonna mess with the other. So just keep that in mind. It's not a big deal. This is just for block out of the colors I want to sort of get a rough idea of the materials, find out what's not going to work. How do you do the hair texture for games? Is it just like a flat texture you apply on polyplanes, or you render the texture with some bit of highlights and shadows before you apply them? That's a good question. There's a few different ways to do hair textures, and like I said, I'm going to start authoring some hair texture here in a minute. Let me just bring up some examples, because there's a lot of different strategies for doing hair in games. And basically, what I like to do for this type of hair, which is going to be like, if you look up my reference here, let me just pull up some reference. I'll show you guys what I mean with regards to authoring a hair shader, because there are a few ways to do it. Our hair shader is kind of nice. It does a lot of like the highlights and backface lighting and all that kinds of stuff. It does a lot of that. Is he not even in here? Alright, let's do this. Overlay. So like it's important that we authored the correct maps, as in we have an ID map, we have a few different elements to our shader to pull out back faces and do kind of the good rim highlights and the good anisotropic lighting that real hair exhibits. So if you see it, like, it's kind of just like a kind of sort of dense, curly sort of thicket on there, and that's the look I'm kind of going for. So it's almost like a woolly sort of texture. So what I'll probably end up doing is going to one of these, high-end digital 3D sites, grabbing high-res, like 4K wool texture, and that'll probably be my source art. Because I bet you I'll probably get a better result out of that. However, I want to show you guys another thing you can do, which is, we'll start building it in ZBrush. And I'll set up my document. I'll get into this in a moment here when I start after I show some examples. But then I'll create a fiber mesh out of this, make it really dense curly hair. I'll then stamp that down onto the plane and have UVs on that. And then with those UVs, I'll be able to sort of bake out many of the maps that I need. What's up, Lance? How you doing? Recovering from spinal procedures. That's no good. Hope your recovery is going well. Jeez. That's spine. Don't mess around with the spine. It's a danger zone there. So hopefully it's all going well for you. And then Uther is first ever topo in ZBrush. If you're doing that, make sure you're apprised of the two main tools. The first one obviously is the topology brush, which you can just drag outside the leg. If I can select the leg, which I apparently cannot do. Anyway, drag outside the leg, hold shift. Probably just can be a little bit squirrely. A lot of times it's better just to hold it and make sure it's getting there. Against the leg, hold shift. And then you can just drag straight lines down. Tap it, and then you got topology right there. And obviously you would do that for, all the way up and down the entire mesh. But yeah, so there's the topology brush, and then you also have append, Z-sphere. Oops. Switch to your Z-sphere. Move it to the inside, scale it down. Have it be roughly in the area that you're going to be working. And then go down to topology, add topology, and away you go. Now you just drop down topology all the way across. It's good to do it in strips because then you can just click and maintain your sort of. If you don't do it in strips, you're constantly like switching what vertice did I mean, and you can oftentimes start slowing yourself down. Then after you do that, adaptive skin, preview, make adaptive skin, and then lo and behold, you'll find, your new geo. So those are the two ways to do it in ZBrush. And then you could also go the procedural route, which is to do like a Dynamesh and have it automatically, or sorry, a ZRemesher and have it automatically handle your retopology for you. So those are the little few of the workflows there. Oh, TopoGun. I'm over here showing all these workflows. Pay attention to the chat. Okay, TopoGun's a good application. It's so fast. I will say that 3D Coat is probably my favorite. What in the world happened to my UI? There we go. So that's how you do something. There's a little refresher on how to do topology in ZBrush while we're at it. Speaking of which, let me get back to this leg. Just want to undo all of that. Okay. Shoot a hairstyle with more voluminous look. Is that just planes too, or do you build a mesh blob as a base and add planes to it to give it a realistic look? Okay, so yeah, let's get back to your question there. Oh, shoot. You know what? Hold on 1 second here. I've got someone at the door. Sorry guys, be back in 2 seconds. Sorry about that, guys. There's someone at the door here. Perils of the home office. Okay, hair shaders. So, let me bring over some examples here. Bear with me a second here. So basically what I would do, like, so for Stanton's hair, I'll do what I just kind of showed you guys, which is to, if you do the unrealistic rendering, this is that same technique in Unreal. You can't really see it in this screenshot, but that rug right there, has a different source texture, of course, but it's those little flakes on the edges. It's the same type of shader in terms of you want to sort of have the hair poking through, have it be kind of frizzy and fuzzy, to sort of match the ref, right? So that's a similar material in terms of its properties, as this wool rug right here. So the way you do that for Mr. T, and I'll get back to your question, but the way you do that for this character is going to be to apply the texture I was telling you guys about authoring, and then have several of these stacked on top of each other. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be 4 different of these sort of hair-like shapes stacked on top of each other, each of which is going to have a map painted on it that has some see-through and has some variation and some sort of wool-like properties. So yeah, so what you get from that is a sort of kind of fuzzy, voluminous look. It looks like there's actual thickness and volume to the material. There it is. Yeah, so that's a good example of it. So that'll be the kind of hair shader I author, something similar to that. Seeing how they do it here as well. They stack it on top of each other, base texture, and do several stacks. So that's the same. Shader sort of properties, material properties that we'll go for with this hair. Now your question was about a more voluminous hair. Like, if you want to give me an example of like what type of hair you're talking about. Hey, Dr. Fish, what's going on? Voluminous. Like this is, I would say this is a more voluminous look with like shells. But of course, like there's no amount of volume you can't achieve with doing hair polys and hair tiles. Why is my Pinterest board not loading all my boards? Pinterest, my reference board for my hair shaders is behaving very strangely. Okay, there it goes. Okay, because like I said, you can do tiles. Here's a good example. Maya allows you to sort of paint in guide strands, then they become polys like this, and that there's plenty of volume there because you can control just how many, what your polygon budget is. But it's just tiles, and then you bake with those tiles. You bake textures. You actually would bake the textures externally to a square, like I'm going to do in ZBrush in a moment. But then in here, you lay in as many as you want, and then just make sure those UVs for those tiles are in a good place. Yeah, and so like that's plenty of volume right there, and you can get that, and like those animate nicely too, because you can swing them back and forth, and they look like a big, bunch of hairs being tossed. Basically, most hair strategies involve doing something like that, right? And then like adding different sections like that draw visual interest and stand out. So like you have that back section there. It's obviously just one hair system. What you can do is then like you add one hair system for the ponytail. You add one hair system for a few strands, left, right, and wherever. And eventually you put it all together and you get something like this, where you see those like those flyaway strands. You have the mop that's on top there. You have some just attention to detail put in to like break it up. So what you want to do if you want to do the tile approach is something like that, and then bake your textures elsewhere such that you can get like a similar maps as to those he's showing right there. So those are the two main sort of workflow. And like I said, mine's gonna be a little bit probably a mixture of both. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do that kind of woolly sort of texture I mentioned before for the hair and beard to kind of get that like thick fuzz. I want to get that thick fuzz everywhere where it's just completely opaque and see-through. But like one thing you'll also notice is that why can't this bring this up? No, one thing you'll also notice is that if I can get a high-res image, if I can get a high enough res image. Let's see here. See if I can find some large ones. There we go. All these areas where it's kind of thinner, like eyebrows, maybe even the mustache, the fringe of the beard, all those places I'll probably try and do small little tiles of, just a handful of curls. So as opposed to like these big long strands, I'll put down tiles all over the face. Link to that video, sure. It's this is part 1. There's part 1, and part 2 is right after it there. And it also links to a number of different style tutorials. How did this one come out? This one's from June 2016. So this is with, this is in Spanish, so no bueno. And these workflows have all been updated. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Let's check out. That's looking awesome, dude. I love this. This is cool. Izuther, I think your name is. Yeah, I dig this a lot, man. I'd like to see some more renders of this. You want to send them over, but this is coming along. This is really cool looking. Dig it, dude. It's coming along great. I'd like to see it when it's done. It looks like the nose ring's like a little. Could just be this render, but the nose ring looks like it's like a little like dislodged this part of a nose. But yeah, otherwise it's like really sick. I like that a lot, man. Good job. Okay. Alright, so if you guys have any more questions about, gotcha, that makes sense. Well, that's awesome, dude. It's looking really cool. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to start to mess around with this texture a little bit. See if I can get a good bake out of here. Oh, this might be a good time to do tiling textures. This is actually a new tool that is it's free on Pixelogic's site. Let me pull it up. Nano tile textures. I believe Joseph Drust made this, and he's got a great deal of sweet textures. Here's the link to this. And what it is a tiling. It like automatically will create seamless maps for you. So I've never actually used this before, so I've been meaning to just like give it a spin. I'm gonna want these textures to be seamless, so it, now is as good as time as any to figure out if we can get it working. So let's see if we can do a good FiberMesh here. Lock it down to a texture, get it all seamless, and then we'll be well on our way to authoring some game-ready texture maps. So let me grab a plane 3D, make PolyMesh 3D. Let's make a 2048. Let's make a 2K map. So now that I'm on a 2K map, I need to zoom out the document a little bit. AA half. This will be, you know, where we do our work. Let's go back to plain 3D. Actually, let's keep this one. This one's fine. Mask it out. Let's see if we can find some fibers to start off with. I know I have some in here that are curly hair. As you can see, I have some bird hair ones and some. So the red hair ones aren't bad. So these are actually pretty decent to start for not the kind of hair I'm going for, but as you can see, you can get yourself some, you know, pretty nifty starting places, just with the pre-saved fiber meshes. This one seems kind of good. If I made this curly with no gravity, this one could be a nice. The gravity on that one's causing that a little bit of trouble, but I think I can sort that out. Here's curly hair. This might be a good one. Houdini is awesome. Did you miss a dev stream, Dr. Peach? No, I don't think so. We did one dev stream last week where we talked about dedicated servers for DisJam. And then I did my ZBrush stream immediately after. So, yeah, Azuther, Houdini is just the bee's knees. I'm trying to learn it myself. I don't really have much time to learn it, but I really want to learn it. It's free. Yeah, it looks like the nose rings in the correct spot on these renders on your site here. These models are really cool, man. I dig the procedural stuff. I wish I got more damn time to spend on it, to be honest. It's one of those things where if I had the time, I would, you know, be so down the rabbit hole with Houdini and the procedural stuff. It's such a good tool set for exactly the kind of stuff I do. Alright, let's get back to this here. You know, I'm kind of curious about this one. Like, it's curly, sure. It's a little ratty. Trying to find some good ones here. That one, if it's curlier, this one actually fits the noise pattern that I would want, and has a little bit of see-through about it. This one might actually be a winner. Yeah, if I can make this a little less jaggy and a little more curly, I think that matches the sort of raspiness as well as the you can kind of see through it a little bit. So I want to work off this and make this as my texture. Let's head over to the FiberMesh modifiers. Looking good, man. "45 hours per week and just practicing art. I envy you." It's good, man. It's what you need to be doing to you know, just keep grinding and grinding and building things and sort of hair look that's similar to that style right there. You know, especially if you get the top of the head, that sort of style. Like it's kind of thick and matted and patchy, but it's also like it's got this like curly kind of, you know. Here's a good look at it. Like that sort of thing right there is the type of material we're trying to do. A short hair game character, probably not. Like it kind of has to be this kind of thick. You know, for a short hair character, I'd probably just use tiles. And if you, after the stream's over, they rewind. Pixelogic exports the stream video to YouTube. At the beginning of the stream, I walk through a few different workflows for how to do hair for games, including for a short hair character, I would do tiles. And there's a linked video that shows how to do tiles. Now what I'm trying to find is I've got a video showing exactly. If you guys pardon me searching for it real quick, I'll show you another example. There it is. A few different hair methods in here. Where is this girl? Here it is. This is an amazing artist. This is the first time oh man, is that really? This is the pin, like that tiny thing. So yeah, here's a good example of it. I'm not sure where she baked her hair from. I think she actually baked it, like she did it like this. Baking out like the shell is where she had her fibers, and then she used those fibers to bake out, as well as adding tiles. As you can see, in the lower left here, baking out individual tiles. But the result is it's right there. And you can see that's like, you know, it's got the little mini hair strands, it's got the thick hair strands. Yeah, it's that method there. Yeah, so you see like how much the FiberMesh there generated the UVs that she worked with. She threw that on the base layer, and then for the parallax effect she just layered in these other shapes, and then on top of that put hair cards in between to sort of stack it up there. So I imagine I'll need to do some kind of similar approach where it's like I'll start with that outer shell, and then I'll probably put in some cards to sort of pop out, you know, little detail strands here and there. So all about hair materials. That's what we're talking about today. What's up, Ashley? Sorry I missed your stream yesterday. I was deposed. Yeah, Dr. Fish, McKenna's hair actually needs a little bit of love. I didn't get a chance to give it all the TLC. Yeah, here's the breakdown. Really, really good work by this artist. Yeah, Dr. Fish, there is McKenna's hair shader needs a little bit of work. The hair cards aren't as dense, and it's actually it was our first sort of foray into messing with the Unreal Engine hair shader, and I've learned a bit more about how to do it since then. So yeah, it's something that yeah, I gotta dig into still a little bit. Fibers 453. Let's take a look at those fibers actually. I'm gonna save this light box just because I don't want to lose it. 247. Z Fibers presets. TMR. curly. Just throw that up there. We'll take a look at these fibers that she mentions here. Fibers 435. That looks like what she used. Yeah, it's a pretty similar starting point, to be honest. Yeah, it's one of those things, Dr. Fish, where it's like we've got so much on our plate, and so like we kind of just we'll you know, basically give them attention as we, you know, are afforded. And there's a lot of things we want to be working on. It's a pretty solid base. The song is brutal. To be this flat, that's for sure. A little too weedy there. Yeah, this song sucks too. Apologies for the music, guys. Alright, let's mess a little bit. Twist variation's fine. Fall of radius. That's the curl. Okay. Coverage is like the width of the thing. Just kind of noodling values here.
We've picked up Goliath on the scanner. Good. Easy
Whoopsies. Tip, slim. Now we're talking. I don't know what was going on with that last FiberMesh. I had to reload it to get to the point where like I had actual like tube strands, because I'm gonna want these tube strands to catch, you know, sort of. If you bake a good map, you'll have 3D information like ambient occlusion, and if you get this tube geometry by using the profile section here, you can create some nifty. BPR sides is how I'll eventually bake it out. So this is just for viewing right now. Now we have that. Maybe decrease the coverage. Start putting a decent amount of hair there. A little bit of see-through. The alpha to poke through, that's good. Ba 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 ba. This is getting there. I think we'll probably increase the length a little bit. I think that'll affect the curliness, of course. I don't want to show through the other side, so throw it only on there. Probably a little too much curve. Oop, maybe. Starting to get some decent stuff. Is a little long. Now we're talking. I think that might be the look we're after here. So I think it's a decent look for sort of curly beard hair. I'm going to save this FiberMesh setting is curly beard hair. Okay.
The whole world at our feet, watching seasons change. Our roads were lined with adventure, mountains in the way couldn't keep us from the sea. Here we stand, open arms. This is
I'm just looking at textures that I think might work. Denser. 9.8. Let's go to 11. Okay, 12 is better. This song is called Manoti. There's the link. Just using some royalty-free music, so our streams don't get muted. Okay. Let's go with white root and a black tip, because there's also a thing the shader can do well is to the shader will pick up the roots and shade them differently. It also uses the roots to sort of help with the blending. So having a ramp from 0 to 1 of the root to the tip will help the shader as well. Yeah, Retopo is a very... Hey, what's up? More no art. This is, I'm basically doing some texture generation in ZBrush. This is basically a plane which is going to become, you know, like a UV projected hair texture. So there's the hair itself it's going to live on. That beard hair and the mohawk are going to be in-game assets for our game engine. But to author the shader, I want to make some curly hair textures similar to that right there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm doing some FiberMesh work to create that same geometry, and then I'll bake it out in ZBrush and create source textures for the file. So export curves, BPR settings. I'll probably try with a few different textures, to be honest. Okay, so having never used this before, bear with me because I'm not sure how this works exactly. But there is this great new tool. I guess it's not new, but I've just heard of it. Nanotile textures. I'm gonna save this curly beard hair. I'm probably gonna lose it here. I never heard of the hair tool in Houdini. I'd love to know more about it. I'll use these textures in our game engine. This is a character for my game Disc Jam, which is a little indie game me and my partner made. This is one of the characters from Disc Jam. This is like one of its more alternate kind of silly arcade skins. They wear basically future American Gladiators attire. This is like an alternate skin that I'm making for him, but he's bald in the game, and I'm giving him this new hairstyle for this skin. So yeah, so just building some textures, just kind of highlighting on the stream that in ZBrush you can do authoring for textures, and of course I could make them texture maps for ZBrush as well, but this is particularly a source texture for a game engine material that will use custom shaders that I'm generating from ZBrush. Okay, so let's see what this all does. I'm just going to create seamless textures anywhere, just for testing. Stanton beard prefix. Looks like it rotated the wrong direction. However, I think you need to enforce tiled nano brushes. But I just wanted to run it once to see what it does. Yeah, the shader itself has to be authored in the game engine blend. So it's like ZBrush is just, I'm authoring the textures that I know I'm going to need for the shader. Let's accept this geo. So I'm going to go to my render. And there's a render setting for the fibers. Properties, fibers. Let's anti-alias fibers, why not? Oops. Fibers. BPR settings. I don't think I need to mess with those at all. Sorry guys, I'm messing with this a little bit here. Turn the profile down to 1. And I can do 4 sides on the preview. That's actually a much better shader. Yeah, there we go. Just setting the BPR settings here. How do I add me on here? Yeah, Twitch, you just go and you can do the follow. This is not my channel. This is ZBrush's channel. So Pixelogic, who makes this application, hosts a bunch of us instructors, and we kind of just go through workflows and stuff on this channel. So if you hit the follow button in the corner of Twitch, you'll be notified anytime Pixelogic is live, which is, you know, you can catch Ashley, who's in this channel, who's streams the day before me, and there's a lot of other streamers who are skilled in very different forms of 3D art and use ZBrush to kind of accomplish all of them. So thank you to the Pixelogic team for setting all this up. It's just a lot of fun doing this every week. All right. Let's get a quick render here now, and I think that little stubble hair might actually be the ticket. Yeah, that's Ashley. She's does some really cool organic stuff. She's one of the other instructors. She's really good too. Oops, what have I done? Okay. If I accept those here, get rid of that one. This is a 1K map. I'm gonna frame up this square so it runs over the edges there. Let's rid of that. Red Hot, you asking about the nano tile texture? I'm actually very unfamiliar with it. The tutorial on how to use it can be found on ZBrush Central. Joseph Drust, who's a Pixelogic employee, is a master at making these rad little plugins. That's the link to the nano tiles texture. And again, I'm not so certain I can get away with it. I'm not sure it automatically does seamless without using nano mesh. It just seems like it's a requirement. So I'm not sure it's gonna work. I just wanted to, you know, give it a spin because I've never used it before. Oh, there we go. That's a pretty decent bake right there. It's not tiled, but of course we can control that. Wonder how we can adjust that. There's a way to make this tile, but I'm not sure. FiberMesh and the nano tile texture thing, I'm not so sure if it works. First thing I want to do though is I want to switch to my render view. Double that. Now let's half. Now I'm actually at 2K resolution, but I'm zoomed out. I'll take the render a little bit longer, but I think it'll be worth. Oops. Frame up the image behind it, then hide it. That way, here it goes all the way to the edge. And let's do some renders. So this is going to render a few different things. Alright, let's see these. We've got the shaded render, which you're seeing now. We have a depth shader, we got a shadow shader, and we've got a mask shader that'll kind of show where things are poking through. So far, so good. We can even get normals out of all of this as well. I'll show you guys how to do that in a minute. This is another tool, ZBrush Photoshop, super helpful. Depth pass, mask pass. Shadow pass, no preview pass, SSS pass, not needed. Subtool mask. Oh, okay. I'm going to render a bunch of different maps right here. Send them over to Photoshop. It's going to take a while, guys. Apologies for this, but it's the cost of doing business when you're trying to build good texture. Alright, this thing's all set up. Z plugin. Oh, here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to try and give different poly groups to each of these. This might crash my whole system, so I'm going to press 9 to save file and project. This is 1.5 million points. I'm going to try and do a different group per strand. We'll see if it blows up. This is my computer chugging. I'm not dropping any frames, it looks like. This will just take a while. Yeah, so hopefully that can finish. Yeah, basically I think the way this basically works is you get, you know, use nano mesh to sort of place things down, and it just automatically creates these great seamless textures. You can get things like height maps, you know, polygroup ID map. What I want to get is a polygroup ID map. That's what I'm trying to achieve now by assigning them all to their own groups. But that's going to take a while because it's got millions of polygons to contain with. It can be done, but it just takes a while. If you generate polygroup ID per strand, then I can uniquely identify each strand as a, like basically what you do is you take a color map, which is what this polygroup ID is, and then you, for each strand you assign it a different color, and then when you export it, you map all those colors from 0 to 1 in grayscale. And then every strand has its own grayscale value from 0 to 256. And so when you have that, the shader can then pick out different hairs and apply calculations with like light bouncing and refraction and stuff like that, and then you get a really cool, like proper looking anisotropic hair filter. Japamo, what's happening? Can you import these textures into Substance and use them as a smart material in the future? Yes, Red Hots. That's exactly basically what I'm doing. You know, I'm just creating square maps that I can build hair shaders with, and Substance or my game engine or Marmoset or even ZBrush or Maya. It just kind of depends on the 3D target you're trying to hit and like where you're trying to make the maps for. So yeah, that's basically what we're after here. Oh, it did it! Nice! So like, okay, so that worked. Now all these strands have their own unique individual polygroup assigned to them. We got 2K here, and then 2K map, and now I can export all of these maps to Photoshop. This will take a while as well. I'm going to save this because that's a big... It takes a while to assign all those polygroups, but now they're in different polygroups. Those colors will then allow me to feed the shader unique hair strand information, and that unique hair strand information will, like I said, catch light a little bit differently and create a more realistic look. So knowing your shader and knowing what you sort of can expect will help you author what texture you need to author. So that's kind of, you know, what I'm doing now. So it's rendering all these samples. I'm going to give it a quick break. This is going to take a second. So I will be right back. I'm going to grab some water and wait for this to render out. One sec, guys. Alright, looks like, skip that note. The shader development will probably take a little bit of time. What I like to do when I'm outside of ZBrush, TJ, is when I'm outside of ZBrush, I tend to do those things off stream, and then I'll come back the following week and show you what I've built with the stuff in the previous week. That way people can go to the ZBrush playlist, go to my last stream, see what I built, and then all the stuff I'm doing in Substance Painter or Unreal Engine, I'll do off camera. That's typically what I want to do. We just kind of want to stay in ZBrush since this is a ZBrush instructional channel, we like to stay in here. Okay, so this is what I got, speaking of other software. This is what I got out of that, and this is pretty good. I got my alpha, so I can get behind it. It's transparent. I got my normal map. They even got depth information. Polygroup ID didn't come out. This is a disaster. Depth information was helpful for shader authoring. Of course, I've got my alpha, which is this mask here. Normal is going to help a lot too, because with a good normal map like that, you can apply that shit. So I'm pretty happy with all of this, and that's just right out of ZBrush. I got my render from BPR, dropped it right onto a square. Now I feel like there's a way to make this tile in ZBrush. Like make the hair fibers tile in ZBrush. However, I don't know that method, and I feel like it's possible. I'm gonna have to investigate that offline, and I'll get back to you guys next week, because that's something that I think that the only thing missing from this workflow is that I'm not exactly sure how you tile that, and I'm pretty sure ZBrush has a method to automatically tile it. Oh, these are my masks. In the meantime, I'll just save this as I'll save this texture for my game dev project, and then when we come back, we'll take these maps and I'll show you what they look like in game, because that might help. Characters, textures, beard, hair, render. The one thing I am missing is that polygroup ID information, which is super upsetting. I think I could probably get it. Definitely a different polygroups. If we go to the poly paint. Just poly paint it from polygroups. Try this one on for size. I just did a poly paint by poly groups, so that'll plop down the color on the actual geometry itself. Let's send that to Photoshop. See what we're working with here. After my sculpt is done in ZBrush, Dynamesh, decimate, take it to 3D code, Typicone, yeah. Unwrap, retaupe, yep. Unwrap and do UVs using Unfold 3D. Bake out maps from high poly model with X normals or similar. Yeah. Project those in texturing soft to low poly retaupe model. I have Mari. Yeah, that's basically the exact workflow, is Uther. I don't, you know. Nice, it looks like this is gonna work. See, that weird. That one's weird. It does a strange. This polygroup ID is clearly not working. My base material came in all whack too. The texture's off. Let me do a quick render of this. I just want to see what happens to these fibers. So yeah, that works, Mizuther. You know, learning how to bake. I'm sure you'll run into some issues with, you know, baking hard edge loops, hard edges versus soft edges, and why those normals bake the way they do. You know, having face artifacts or edge artifacts with the normals. All that's kind of wrapped into that, and you know, in your 3D app like Mari, you'd want to have a shader. See, I just. I bet you it's because they're fibers, and fibers have the texture information in them. That's probably why. Can't for the life of me figure out. APR settings, 4 sides. The ID maps, I'm trying to generate one right now. Basically, what you want the ID maps to be is this like large variation of color per strand. And then I'll take that. See, even still, I can't get this. I wonder if because they're fibers. There's a way to make FiberMesh into geometry. That's what I'm missing here. FiberMesh to geometry. There's a setting to like turn this into live geo. That's what I'm missing here. Green brushes, more should have make PolyMesh 3D, see if that works. Poly paint from poly groups. See, now we have this range of color per strand. And I believe I just did, I think. Render pass. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we've got it now. Map jammers, characters, Stanton, textures. Textures. Beard ID. Okay, I've just exported that. Actually, I'm gonna send this to Photoshop now. Because it was fibers is why I wasn't picking up the color. I'm gonna use mask, BPR render, polygroup ID render. This will work now. I'm gonna send that to Photoshop on this geometry. I made that a PolyMesh 3D, so it's no longer a FiberMesh render. So now we have the geo is not as fine, but I think it's plenty fine as far as the shader is concerned. So now I have this great now I have a transparent mesh that just has the IDs of these curls, and they're identified by color. Yeah, I mean, grab doc would be fine too. It's essentially the same thing. I just wanted to send it over to Photoshop so that I know it would have the nice group set up and it would have like the mask and all that stuff. Oh, it looks like I changed the fibers when I was messing around. The renderer changed the fibers. So yeah, we have to do this a little bit more carefully to get everything as desired. But you get the picture. Now that that has, come on. Now that I have my ID map here. I do a new adjustment layer, hue saturation, turn to complete grayscale, ID map only. I'd probably do a levels as well to sort of bring out the individuals. Open up the range a little bit. Yeah, this black and white filter is pretty nifty. Using this black and white filter, I can, you know, put in some variation here. And the goal for all this is just, I want to have a nice breakup of value all over the texture. So what that then is now, the shader uses these different grayscale values as the ID map. So that's a pretty ideal ID map there. That's going to allow the shader to make some really cool lighting effects on the hair. So I'll leave that for now. When I come back next week, I'll have this shader in game, and we'll take a close look at the shader and the effect that's created by this. And I think it'll look pretty darn nifty. Pretty actually. I apologize for moving a little bit slower through all that. I actually hadn't done some of those workflows before, and I knew they were kind of possible to do, but I wanted to work my way through them. And that worked out okay. Just as a refresher, I had to make PolyMesh 3D on the FiberMesh Geo to turn the FiberMesh into sculptable geometry, which could then contain the polygroup information and bake all that down. Very original. Yeah, those are quite different. That's interesting. Well, next time I would go through it, I would go through to this other one. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to save this in my Stanton folder, just so that I have curly hair geo. I'll probably come back through, try to make this tileable, as well as bake all the maps out from the hard geometry, generate some normals from this, and make this, you know, my main hair. And then yeah, I think I can slap that down on the old mesh there and see where that gets us. Okay, so now that I've got, just wanted to walk, it took a little bit longer than I expected. Is that how you usually make your substance materials? You know, not really. There's a few different ways I go about substance materials, depending on whether it's environment versus character, etc. Using ZBrush fibers is my current favorite way to make hair materials. So that's sort of what I've been using for hair. So that's the workflow I wanted to share, because I found that ZBrush is actually quite helpful for doing game here. You know, if I want to do tileable substance textures, I probably use a little bit of combination of Substance Designer and ZBrush. That's when you can like really do some interesting things in ZBrush, where you're like holding the tilde key and you know, doing tiling by, you know, hand dropping down, you know, floor geo and stuff like that. And I'm actually going to be needing to do some of that authoring pretty soon here. You know, we're going to be getting into environment stuff pretty soon, so I think at that time we'll start kind of messing with that stuff. Hair for cinematics. Well, those are probably done in something similar to FiberMesh, but for rendered out in real time. So those are probably done in something like Maya or Mari, where you have actual individual hair strands are drawn and rendered out the same way that FiberMesh itself works. Like, you know, you have FiberMesh, and I'm on the hair right now. Preview. Like, these are actual individual strands there, right? And when you render, you know, that's rendering one frame, drawing all the individual strands. That's what you're seeing in cinematics. Every, you know, whatever 3D software they're using, they're rendering out every strand, frame by frame, and they're doing a full, you know, proper render there. Anyway, let me turn that off. It's a little bit too Jerry curl, but sorry, I just want to save this off real quick. Just realized I didn't actually save that hair off. I wanted to save it. Why would we do a lesson on hair cards? Yeah, I could do a lesson on hair cards. You know, one thing you can do with hair cards is you can use FiberMesh to kind of stack up hair cards. I can show that in a second here. I want to save that preset, which I just saved. Append the curly hair geo and just save this whole subtool, just in case. Alright, save that off. Yeah, so here's another example of where you can kind of use hair cards. Like, if you have a fiber mesh, you can make it nice and sparse, and you can, you know, control the coverage, control the density. That's too many. Scale root, scale tip. So basically I'm just building you know, cards the way you would. And then you can widen them. Just tweak segments here. Colorizer, vertical tiling, transparency, control gravity, no twists, no revolutions, ball radius don't care about. you have a nice amount of cards there that you can then do something with. And then yeah, like I said, they're textured right now by this thing, but that could easily be, you know, a hair shader you set up. And then, you know, if you accept these, you can then come into grooming, brush, groom, strong groom, and then you can start just sort of painting them around individually. You know, maybe I'll go this way. I don't know. That's a pretty quick way to get hair tiles, and if I wanted to do just like, you know, I'd have to author some textures for those hair tiles, and obviously, like, you know, how you set up UVs matters, and I believe UVs are automatic when you bake with textures like this. I'm pretty sure that, let me just verify that. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty instant, you know, set of hair cards, and they're not perfect. There's a lot of, you know, obviously a lot of issues with, you know, how they face the camera and stuff like that, and they're a bit unwieldy, but you can get hair tiles real quick out of FiberMesh. If anything, you can get base hair tiles that could need a little bit of cleanup later. And I guess while we're just on the subject of hair, another thing you can do is export them as curves. And if you do that, you can export them as the OBJ, and then you could bring them into Maya or Max or whatever, some kind of tool that has a hair author pipeline, and then those curves would drive the hair in that software. So yeah, so there you go. There's a little hair tile solution for you. Just trying to groom it out a little bit, but man, it's difficult. A little sideways mohawk there for the guy. Alright, I'm gonna do a quick restart because I've screwed this document all up and there's just a world of subtools and things I don't need distracting me. If FiberMesh can't get them thick enough. What do you mean? In what sense? I mean, you can fill out as many cards as you have space for. So. Characters, Stanton, ZBrush. Icon. Lost those changes I made. Gotta save them. Yeah, but one thing you can also do is you can widen those cards by grabbing their UVs. Like those cards have UVs, so take it into Maya, select the right edge by UV, or select both edges by UV, and just scale the geo out along in that direction. You can widen them. You can widen them by selecting by UV because that'll pick all the outside verts on them and let you kind of scale that out. How do I go about the texture? Well, presuming that I have, you know, if I do those tiles, they would be UV'd in 0 to 1 space. I'd probably, you know, I'd author a hair texture plane that had a bunch of different options on it. I think the way you would want to do that is, I'll apply mesh here. So let's do a few different types of hair. decent actually. So like I would build a texture like this. See if I can find one that fits. Here's a wavy hair one. Yeah, exactly, Tom. Tom, is that's basically how you would do it. You basically, that's what you'd want to do. You'd want to author the texture like this, right, where you have actual hair information baked down onto a texture, right? So like this information, I would like bake these hair strands down to that polyplane in 0 to 1 space. Then after I generated the cards, I could align those cards. I would grab all the cards that fit a certain UV, and then I would slide them over, adjust the UV until they kind of just fit right on the hair geo I authored, or sorry, the hair texture that I authored when I built something like this. I would export this the same way I exported those other hair strands. I would export something like this. Then when I did the hair cards, I would just manipulate their UVs such that they were laying over this, and then they would get like the normal information, the AO information, the tip information, the ID information. They would get all those hair strand information per card, and then you do it like if you do like a bushy hair, a less bushy hair, eyebrow hair, beard hair. You do like a little bit of each on like a 4K hair texture map. Then you can get like the alpha out, and you can like have different types of hair, but all the relevant 3D information in each. And then you can do different cards, per kind of section. And I hope that's helpful. I want this to be toy plastic. Yeah, this topology's looking okay. Is the character not mirrored? Because what I would say is the character certainly appears mirrored. So you might as well mirror it, because I can't really it looks like it's not. This part's a little bit lower than the lower left lip. You're gonna have trouble with deformation on some of these poles you have here. The main thing you want to remember is just keep loops around all the areas you're gonna, if you're gonna animate it, that is. Like this area here is trouble. Like this area right here, you should be able to make that all just loops. It's a little bit random and haphazard. Like, see how the kind of curves are pulling to the right over here. You know, you want to just make sure you maintain loops. I think Danny Mac is a good tutorial on this. Head retope. This is one of the other ZBrush instructors. Danny Mac, head topology, YouTube. That should be enough. Yeah. Just watch this video. This will help you. This is one of the other ZBrush instructors. Can you add bones and morphs to the hair? I wouldn't do bones for hair. If I was doing a ponytail, there would be bones reginator. But otherwise, you can do it in vertex animation. You can just like apply animation to it such that it kind of waves and sways and stuff like that. Bad. And the whole all quads thing is kind of a relic of the past. You know, you certainly want to keep quads and loops as healthy as you can, but it's not really necessary to stay like 100% quads. You know, if you drop a triangle in a place that makes your topology better, then by all means do it. Well, yeah, you don't need to be 100% symmetrical. You want to break up symmetry if you can. I mean, that's not the point though. The point is the topology should still be pretty sound. I mean, like the diagonal triangles like that. That's gonna if you're not gonna animate it though. I mean, you're still gonna want to project the details onto it. So it's still gonna affect your UV map. It's gonna affect your island. It's gonna affect your your texture bake if you have like stretchy long triangles. So it's just, you know, you want to keep it as uniformly spaced as possible if you can. Right, Alex Lee CG is correct. Big mess. Let's grow this one. Just dropping some material IDs down on this thing. Man, I don't know what's going on with this geo. These faces are not texturing properly. It's unfortunate. It's not really important right now. It's more for my own visualization. But I'd still like to see what's happening here. Well, it's a give and take, is Uther. You want to, you know, stick to the geo as best you can, of course. Maintain symmetry as best you can, of course. But like the stuff I was showing you, yeah, Alex Lee is on it. start working on this jacket here. Yeah, if you do like if you search on Pinterest for like topology, like you just have Pinterest boards full of good topology practices. That's a really good place to start. Just shows things. I mean, you know, anytime you can leverage stuff that people have already been through, you should take advantage. Hippie Drum is amazing. Hippie Drum, that artist is doing God's work over there. Really helping advance the sort of understanding of these kind of things. Just looking for some clothing stuff here. These are all buttons. Brush. Clothing. Specific brush I'm looking for at the moment. Oops. It has machine parts, industrial parts. It has buttons and button snaps. I think it's this one. Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, just keep trying stuff out, because that's basically the best advice you can get, is to just learn by doing. You know, if you have topology errors, you'll find out why at some point. I want to sort of match the size of those buttons. These are a little too tall though. A little too tall. Why can't I zoom in? There he goes, jeez. Let's see, it's just because whenever ZBrush starts acting squirrely like this, it is smart to save. Just a little too tall. This is much better. I'm just drawing these transpose lines out over the underlying poly because then I know it'll stick to the normal of that poly. And I'll use control when I drag these out so that I can roughly match the shape. Looks like that does match okay. And again, using control to fix the size of the thing, using spacebar to drag it, or like adjust the placement after I've dragged it out. Those two are a little more spaced out. This would probably have a little poker on the other side, so we'll have to stretch it through and put some geo on the side as well. Obviously this is all still pretty black out. I haven't done, I'm just really getting a lot of placeholders in. This is a bit of a placeholder itself. I want to do a big sort of, let's start layering in some of this stuff. Thanks to Mana. Duplicate this off, do a short one, go down to here, delete higher, smooth this down. Now we're talking. Do a geometry weld distance to close those middle geometry, weld points, weld distance, and I'll close that little gap there that the mirror and weld left behind. So this is gonna be a little crest. Let me thin it out a little bit. I want it to pop off but not be too ridiculous. That should work. Yeah, insertion for men's leather vest is not a welcoming proposition. One thing that I notice is that the zipper kind of hangs on the inside on its own little thing. So I'll have to keep that in mind. I'll have to adjust this. Pull this geometry off. Oops. I'm gonna pull the zipper off because from some of the reference I can see, poly group single poly, Q mesh single poly. So I'm just gonna pull off a little string. Split hidden. This will be where I put the zipper. Poly loop, key mesh poly loop, pull that out. Delete, poly loop, delete all that. Key mesh poly loop, and then I will just hold shift to widen it. Zipper old. Let's hide that zipper. This little bad boy will be where we house the zipper. Polygroup island. Yeah, this little guy is gonna be where the zipper lives. What's the question, Red Hots? How did I make this little extrusion match the shape of the outer lining vest? I'll do it again on this other side if that'll help. I want to do my best to make sure they're pretty flush, but ultimately it's just a matter of do they look right, because they're going to be projected anyway. Yeah, I'll do it right here on the other side in a second here. Basically, like what I'm looking at is I'm looking at some reference that shows that, like, I had the zipper as part of like the parts of the collar. The zipper really has its own little strap, so to speak. So what I did was I grabbed all these faces. What the fuck? This is a nice little feature. Let me save that right there. ZBrush is acting squirrely, so I'm going to save this and open it back up in a moment. It's not letting me paint down my Q mesh or my Z modeler. Hair worked out good. I was able to get all the information I needed baked out. Now I have a nice little texture here that has ID information, so I could have my shader pick out the individual hairs, and our in-game shader will use the ID map to do some pretty interesting things. It's got transparency, so like I can poke through and see the skin underneath it. This will be a pretty effective beard hair texture. It's gonna, and then I got there's the ID map. I got depth information. I've got normals, which is huge for nailing that sort of like tube-like feel and making the hairs feel like they have 3D shape. I'll author the material offline because it's not really a ZBrush subject, but ZBrush was used obviously to make this, and it worked out quite well. So it worked out. And now we're doing a little bit of clothing, as usual. Stanton. Okay. So what I basically did was I knew this was going to be, these are the polys I care about. Saying full on what fucking. I don't know why my Z modeler is just like freaking broken. Something is up with this mesh, man. On the vest. Oh, I know why. It's because I have hidden geometry. Sometimes you have hidden geometry, ZBrush can act pretty squirrely. Okay, so I've gotten those faces isolated. I'm going to hold Control to pull off a strip. Isolate it. Split hidden. Get the lower half of it. Key mesh poly loop. Pull out a little poly there. And then delete this poly loop. Group by normals, get them all isolated. Polygroup all. Key mesh by polygroup all. Unhide everything else. Pull it back in. Hold shift so that it becomes a move operation rather than a new extrude mesh. So I've got those two little things there. Kind of expected there to be some drama up here. Just a nice big all-encompassing move brush. Pull it up a little bit. Probably went a little bit too far out. That's fine. When I make clothing, do I just mask the body and extract? You know, sometimes, usually, I mean, like that's. For these like, for these kind of straps and stuff like that, I'm doing it all in low poly for now because it's pretty easy to do in low poly. And then I can just subdivide, get my UVs for free, and have my texture ready to rock right there. So it depends. For example, this thing back here, this is going to be like a leather patch. I definitely did that for this one. Back face mask on my smooth brush. Just smooth that down. I got back face mask on so I can just thin this out without affecting the faces behind it. I want it to have like a nice ridge there, but not be, you know, kind of too bulbous. It's silly looking. Looks pretty good. Like that was an extraction that I pulled off. Okay, now let's get back to ba-dum. Okay, let's find some zippers here. A metal zipper. Now, a good way to maybe do this is to frame the mesh. Or frame a curve, so to speak. New crease. They work out okay. Okay. Alright, let's see. If I insert an edge loop right on this thing, uncrease all, then crease, edge loop complete. Uncrease the part that loops around, probably increase that as well. Uncrease the last poly. So now I can frame the mesh by the creased edge. Grab the metal zipper. Oops. Let's frame that crease. It's following the topology, okay. The same problem I had last time I was out. Take a look at the brush menu here. Curve multi-tube. Curve tube. There's a reason that curve tube and curve multi-tube there's a reason why, you know, if you tap it on one, it goes to both sides with multi-tube. If you tap it on one with regular tube, it only goes to one side. And I'm trying to find what brush property that is. It's gotta be something. Absolutely nothing is changing besides brush modifier changes. Anything to do with that. Alright guys, sorry, this is some very interesting stuff right now. Okay. Increase all. Okay, if I isolated the crease to this one side, that'll help. I got a tip for you. Here it comes. That's the best tip I got for you. The dude knows his ZBrush inside and out. Rather than continue to try and figure out why this thing is hitting so squirrely, I think the best thing to do... Hey, what's up, Brandon? I think I'm going to ignore this curve and just draw it out. Yeah, I'm just doing, you know, not getting a ton done, but like just trying to spend some time on things that I think might be helpful. Anytime something kind of crosses into the realm of, oh, you know, it's like something not obvious, I try to stop and highlight it. You streamed this morning, didn't you, Brendan? I think you're always in my like twilight hour. Size 4, I think size 5 might do. And I also don't need... I can split unmasked points. I think I can settle with that zipper sitting right there. I don't think I need quite as much geometry here. So poly group all, single poly, slide that bit back in. Maybe a little overhang. I'll probably take these two off. Oops. A single poly. Take that one off, take that one off. Probably towards the bottom too. No, that one's actually quite good. Yeah, that zipper looks a lot better than the previous one. So let's do the same thing over here. I had a size 5 metal zipper. Let's grab the semi-open zipper left top. Yeah. A little too far. Ooh, oops. Curve brushes can be quitty. 6 a.m. is when you stream. Oh man, that is ambitious, dude. I think I pulled an all-nighter and caught one of your streams one of those nights, but otherwise, come on. I'm just doing a little bit of noodling here to place these just so, since that's a creased edge on the other side, and I want to just get a piece of it. That'll help me. Oof. Man, these things are finicky. Curve brushes, man. Wizardry. I think it was actually fighting with that other Geo. Yeah, I was fighting with the shirt Geo. Oh, maybe not. Stop turning. Alright, that's good. And then when I sculpt on the high poly, I'll be on this jacket, and I'll pop out some seams and start detailing it. This Brendan, by the way, guys, Brendan Bankston here is another one of our instructors. Really talented artist, makes some really cool stuff. Also, I believe for games. So, split unmasked points. Delete that curve. And Q mesh. Ooh, way down. Polygroup all. Let's just bring this in. Same as the other side. I think, in fact, I could probably insert an edge right at this one. Delete that one. Oop. Pull that one off. Okay, we're getting there. We're detailing step by step. Oh, it's 3 o'clock. That's about it. All right, Brendan, thanks for staying by. Thanks for Ashley for staying by. Then all you guys, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, so I guess today, if anybody wants to watch back the video, if anybody's just joining us or wrapping things up, in the beginning we talked about how to author, use ZBrush to generate FiberMesh, high poly hair strands for a sort of furrowy, matted, sort of bushy hair like I'm making here. Exported all of those, made a texture sheet in Photoshop for them. Then we worked on some of the cloth detailing and did a little bit of Q modeler brush as well. You know, did some insert mesh brush stuff, tweaked some of this geometry up here, and I'm still working in low poly for the most part. Want to have the low poly kind of squared away so that I can just texture paint the high poly details and be done a lot quicker for the game. Alright guys. Yeah, it's interesting, Brendan. Like I was actually trying some things for the first time. I was kind of experimenting a little bit, so moved a little bit slowly. However, I eventually got the result I wanted, and was able to build this ID map, which is like identifies on a grayscale value individual hairs. It has transparency. Got my normal map, and all of this would be for like the kind of curly, like, you know, Mr. T style, you know, bushy hair that I'm using for this character. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and we will see you next week.